Teaching can feel very isolating. A lot of times you are the only adult in the room with maybe 20, maybe 30 students, but it doesn't have to be. Whether you're looking for advice, support, or just someone who gets it, the relationships you have with adults in your building really make the difference. In this episode of your Classroom Coffee Break, we're talking about building professional relationships, networking, mentoring, and teamwork in teaching. I'm John Van Dusen, a longtime teacher, coach, and Army officer, and episode 32 is all about building those professional relationships within your building. So first, let's talk about why these relationships matter. As I mentioned in the intro, a lot of times you are the only adult in the room with a bunch of students, and that can be very intimidating and isolating, and you can be really craving that adult interaction, because as much fun as teaching is, sometimes you just need other adults to talk to. So why are professional relationships so important? First off is collaboration, and collaboration with your coworkers leads to better instruction. It leads to better behavioral management techniques. It leads to more efficient use of your time and your classroom space. So working with other adults in the same profession can really help just from a collaboration standpoint. And this can be really tough because at the same time you're teaching, so is everybody else. So the ability to go actually watch somebody else teach or watch how they manage their classroom, their time, whatnot, can be really difficult. So the more you can collaborate together, the better off you're going to be. Another reason these adult relationships matter is support helps reduce burnout. You realize that you are not the only one going through these things. We are all in the same boat, and we can either all sink together or rise together. So just by having those other people that understand your current situation is going to help you prevent that teacher burnout, which if you go back a few episodes in the Classroom Coffee Break, I talk about teacher burnout. I talk about managing work and life. Having those adult relationships are really going to help with that as well. And the next reason these relationships matter is mentorship. And it's a little bit different than collaboration. I would argue that a mentor can either be formal or informal, but it's somebody that you look up to, somebody who's been doing the job a little bit longer than you have, that you can go to with questions, with ideas. And that mentorship can come in person. It can be online. It can be through books. One of my favorite quotes comes from General Mattis before he went into the Gulf War. He said he read every book he could possibly get his hands on about war in that region, about history in that region, because in his words, he wanted to let others make his mistakes for him. He didn't want to repeat mistakes that had been done in the past, whether it's 50 years ago, 150 years ago, 500 years ago. You can do the same thing with a teacher mentor. You do not have to make the same mistakes. If you get a mentor that's going to help you progress, it's just going to help you accelerate your growth, and you're going to sidestep some of those mistakes that you may make just because you're a human or just because you're a new teacher. It's going to help you sidestep those mistakes by getting a good mentor. And one of the last reasons that I'll say, and it's not the only, these aren't the only four, but the last reason that I'll mention about why having those adult relationships matters is networking. Sometimes you may be networking with teachers from other schools, or you may be networking with somebody who's at your school and then moves schools, or maybe you move schools and you still have that network. And it goes back to that first part of collaborating, supporting, and mentorship, but also that networking with other teachers in other districts, other buildings is really might open some doors that you don't even know exist yet. So keep those doors open, keep those networks flowing, and you might end up with some pretty neat opportunities that you don't even know about. So now that we know why having those relationships are important, let's talk about finding mentors and building that support network. So first off, I want you to identify the go-to people. And it doesn't have to be somebody in your grade level. It doesn't have to be somebody in your subject. Just identify those people in the building that you know are go-to people, veteran teachers who you can go to with collaboration ideas, with classroom management ideas, all of those different things. And you can seek out your own mentor. And even though you may seek out your own mentor, and you're allowed to have more than one, your school may have a formal mentorship program. And by all means, use that. Now, I've seen this done a couple different ways. I was a mentor for one of my very good friends who had taught for several years, and he had just moved school districts. So my job as his mentor was basically just to teach him the Kingsford way of doing things. He already knew how to teach. He already knew how to do lesson plans, classroom management, all of that stuff. He was fantastic at. But each school district is going to have a little bit different way of doing attendance, doing lunch count. What do we do during assemblies? What do we do during drills? So my job as his mentor was just to teach him the tiny details involved in doing it the Kingsford way. So the other type of formal mentor, we had a new teacher that came in, and his formal mentor did those things about teaching him the Kingsford way of doing things during drills, during assemblies and whatnot. But also she was there to provide that veteran teacher perspective, and he was able to bounce ideas off her. And basically what I went back to before, she was able to help him sidestep some common pitfalls, common mistakes, because he was brand new into teaching. So if you have a formal mentor, just understand your place and what your job is. Are you there to teach them because they're a brand new teacher? Are you there to simply guide them through your district's way of doing things? As long as you understand your role and their role, it can be a fantastic relationship. So while we're on the topic of formal mentors, I just want to touch on student teachers for a second. So I had a student teacher a couple of years ago, and that's a really interesting place because I've been in the classroom for a long time at this point. Here's someone who is very passionate about their job, is coming in. So I have to be their mentor. I wanted to, by the way, still am. Jonah, you should call me. But the interesting part with that is I can help him sidestep some common pitfalls and mistakes, but at the same time, I had to let him make some mistakes on his own. And the one example that comes to mind is it was one of his first lessons, and he wanted to put a video in with the lesson. So he grabbed a video off of YouTube and started showing it. And at the end, it was a terrible video. It was horrible. But at the end, I went up to him and I went, "Hey, did you watch that before you showed it to the class?" And he's like, "No, I did not." I was like, "I can tell." So, second hour, there's no way you can use that. So he scrambled and found a better video. But then we had a little teachable moment at the end. I said, "Hey, when you're previewing these, you do not have to watch the whole thing. Put it on 2 times and have it play in the background while you're preparing something else, or skip through, go to minute 1.5 and then skip to minute 3 and then skip to minute 7, just to make sure it's doing what you want it to do." So you don't have to watch the whole thing, but you do definitely have to preview those videos. And I feel like as his mentor, I think I did the right thing by kind of letting him not fail, but letting him stumble a little bit, and then using that as a teachable moment to bring it back. And then obviously the rest of the day went fine. So we've talked about finding mentors. Now, building that support network. The biggest thing I can say about that is make sure that your circle is diverse. And what I mean by that is make sure that you're talking with teachers outside of your grade level. Make sure you're talking to teachers outside of your subject, because I think we can really get stuck, not just in teaching, but in all kinds of different things, in what's called an echo chamber, where we're all saying the same thing. So we believe that to be the only way things are, or we believe that to be the truth. But by building that diverse circle, whether it's different grade levels, different subjects, different schools, different states, you can kind of understand how other people deal with similar issues, even if they're not the same, because each district has its own unique issues. Each building has its own unique problems. Each classroom has its own unique culture. But at the same time, there's a lot of similarities between those classrooms, schools, buildings, and districts. So one of the best ways to do this is to be active on social media in different teacher groups, either on X or on Facebook. LinkedIn seems to be picking up a lot of speed when it comes to teachers and being a part of those groups. So there's a couple ways you can do that. You can either follow other teachers, you can message them, you can just be a lurker and kind of go through and read how other people are dealing with problems, or you can be active and ask questions and have people respond back to you. When you're online, just be aware that everything that goes on the internet is always there. So if you're going to go on there to do a rant, maybe write it down in a journal first, maybe write it as an email and then delete it. But when you're going online, there's a lot of great info out there. There's a lot of great mentor opportunities and social networking opportunities out there. Just be careful what you post. You're not going to want to badmouth your school. You're not going to want to badmouth your boss. So exercise a little bit of prudence. Use some of that frontal part of the brain. Let the caveman brain calm down a little bit, and you can really link up with some fantastic people who have amazing ideas online. So we've talked about mentorship and kind of getting that support network. Now let's talk about collaborating with colleagues. And this could be at the grade level. I know in the middle school we meet as a grade level, and sometimes we meet as departments. And for math and English, I think that makes a lot of sense most of the time. For science, because those are really building. For social studies, it doesn't make a lot of sense for us to meet within the building, because fifth grade does American history up until basically the Declaration of Independence. Sixth grade does geography. Seventh grade does ancient cultures. And then eighth grade, we pick up where fifth grade left off. So actually, it makes a lot of sense for me as the eighth grade teacher to meet with the fifth grade and the ninth grade. So sixth and seventh, I mean, very important topics. And we get more classroom management strategies and like project-based learning ideas from each other than we do the actual content, because it's so vastly different. And obviously we can pull in, especially in eighth grade, I can pull in the geography lessons and I can pull in some of that ancient history stuff. But when it comes to actually collaborating, it seems to work better for us as an eighth grade team. And the first one I'll say on there as an eighth grade team for our meetings, we meet once a month, is be a team player. You're going to have certain people that are drawn to certain things. For instance, our art teacher is the Futures Club mentor, and she is all about the dinner dance. She is such a great planner. It is amazing to watch her work. As a planner myself, just on the Army side of things, I love to watch her work and watch her involve the kids in that planning process, and it's incredible. So as a team player, I step away from that, but there's other things that I step in and do my part to help the team. Point number 2, when it comes to collaborating with your team, whether that's subject matter or grade level, is respect your differences. We're all different. We all run different classrooms. Going back to our art teacher, she is so organized. If you ask for a pencil, you can go into her classroom. There's a little drawer labeled pencils, and there they are. If you ask for a pencil in my room, I'm going to look at my cluttered desk and go, I don't know. If you can find one, you can have it, right? So respect those differences, and you can have some fun with it. I'm really bad at student names, so obviously I get teased for not knowing students' names that well, or if people come back to visit, I'm like, hey, guy, I can't remember your name. I remember your face. I remember the poster you did. I can't remember your name. So we have a lot of fun with that. But just respect those differences. And definitely, if you can, it's great to be friends. If you can't, it's important that you're friendly. Third part on collaborating with your teammates is try to use those planning sessions where you all come together efficiently. Try to have an agenda, try to have something that you're trying to actually accomplish. Otherwise, you're just wasting each other's time. And that's not good. I know for ours specifically, one of our administrators comes in, and usually we have a couple of hot ticket items. It might be we have standardized testing come up, we have a field trip coming up. What are we going to do for Thanksgiving break or a dance? There's some big topic that we're talking about once a month-ish. And then we also have different topics that we bring up. For instance, hey, this student, I'm struggling with this. Have you been able to get them to work? Oh yeah. Hey, if you call mom, he's super responsive. But don't just show up there and not have anything. It's important to not waste each other's time. And the last part I'll put on that is clear communication. Being a Google school, we are huge on using Google Docs, Google spreadsheets, Google Slides. That art teacher I mentioned before, she was actually featured a couple episodes back, I believe on the SEL episode, but she is huge into Canva. So she can share those Canva slides out, and it's amazing. But it's important that you communicate effectively and clearly so that everybody's on the same page. So we've talked about a lot of in-building stuff, whether that's your mentor, whether that's collaborating with your team. So let's talk about making the most of networking opportunities outside the building. And the first thing I'll say is make an effort to attend those school and district events. If they're having a retirement party, if they're having a Halloween party, if they're having a Christmas get together, try to make it out and get to those things. Even if it's a little bit of a drive, it's usually a great time to bring your spouse or your significant other and, meet with people outside of work, which I think is really important. And we have a 8th grade text string, which we share all kinds of stuff, pictures from our kids playing sports or something great that happened in the classroom or whatnot, but just to physically be in each other's presence. And especially I say with spouses or significant others, boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever, because then they can really see those people that you mention and talk about all day, every day, right? It's really funny. We have 2 teachers, Scott and Jen, who are always back and forth telling jokes on each other and whatnot. And if you've never met them, that's a much different impact than if you've actually sat and talked with them and kind of seen their personalities and whatnot. So try to attend those events when you can. And the next way to do those networking opportunities outside the building is go to conferences and workshops. They are so much fun. If you have a chance to go to, for instance, in Michigan, it's called McCall, Michigan Association for Computer Users and Learning, which it's basically a technology conference. But the first time you go there, it's almost overwhelming. There's so many presenters and so many vendors. It's just a really cool place to put yourself out there and network with other people from different schools, from different subject areas, different communities, and it can be a lot of fun. And I'll challenge you to try to present at one of those things, because you might be a new teacher, you might not think you're very good, but you do have something to contribute. So maybe that first one you just go and attend the different sessions, but the next one you need to present. It's a good time. It really is. And you teach all day, every day. Now you're just switching from, say, 10-year-olds to 40-year-olds. No big deal, right? And just a pro tip for those conferences is once you get back to your home, to your district or whatnot, if you can send those presenters that you visited a little email or even like a handwritten thank you note, that means the world to those presenters, and also helps build your network for future mentors, collaborators. And again, back to the first part of this episode, there's going to be doors that may open that you don't even know exist yet. So just a final thought on this is teaching is a people profession. And usually we think of our students, but it also includes those adults, those grown-ups in our life. So whether you're asking a veteran for advice, planning a unit with your team, or joining an online teacher group, attending a professional conference, all of those things can help make your teaching career that much fuller and that much more rewarding. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of your Classroom Coffee Break. If you got any value of it, please like, subscribe, and share with a friend so they can make the next Classroom Coffee Break.